Thrilling Stories of the Railway by V. L. Whitechurch. Cases from the private notebook of Thorpe Hazell, book collector, railway enthusiast, and gentleman of independent means. Sir Gilbert Murrell's Picture. The affair of the goods truck on the Didcot branch found a prominent place in Thorpe Hazell's notebook for the unique method by which a very daring plan was carried out. Hazell was staying with a friend at Newbury and had taken his camera. He was an amateur photographer, though his photos generally consisted of trains. He had just come in from a ramble when his friend met him in the hall.
"Hazell, you're just the fellow."
"What's up?" asked Hazell, commencing some exercises.
"The station master tells me an awfully queer thing happened on the Didcot branch last night."
Hazell went on whirling his arms round his head.
"What?" "A goods train left Didcot last night to Winchester, but one of the wagons never arrived here at Newbury."
"Not much in that," replied Hazell, still at his exercises.
"The wagon was in the middle of the train."
"Probably left in a siding by mistake."
"But the station master says that all the stations along the line have been wired to, and it isn't at any of them."
"Well, you begin to interest me," replied Hazell, stopping his whirligigs to eat his plasmon biscuits. 10 minutes later they were in the station master's office. "Do you know what the truck contained?"
"That's just where the bother comes in, sir," he replied. "It was valuable. There's a loan exhibition of pictures at Winchester next week, and this wagon was bringing 3 large pictures from Leamington. They belong to Sir Gilbert Murrell."
"Are you sure the truck was on the train?"
"Well, the brakesman's here now. You can hear the story in his own words if you like."
The goods guard appeared.
"The wagon was on the train when we left Didcot. It was the 5th or 6th in front of my break. We stopped at Compton to take up a cattle truck, then ran right through to Newbury, and then I discovered the wagon was not on the train. I thought very likely it might have been left at Upton or Compton by mistake, but they say it isn't there."
"Extraordinary," exclaimed Hazell. "You must have made a mistake."
"No, sir, I'm sure I haven't."
"You were in your break all the time, I suppose?"
"Yes, sir."
A porter entered. "There's a passenger train just in from Didcot, and the driver reports seeing a truck in Churn siding."
"Why, we ran through Churn without a stop."
"Where is Churn?" asked Hazell, for once at a loss.
"It's merely a platform and siding close to the camping ground between Upton and Compton," replied the station master. "Rarely used except in the summer when soldiers are encamped there."
"I should very much like to see the place," said Hazell.
"So you shall," replied the station master. "Inspector Hill should go with you."
In less than an hour, Hazell and Inspector Hill alighted at Churn. It is a lonely place, in a vast flat basin of the Downs, far from all human habitation. The station itself is a single platform with a siding. In this siding was the lost truck, filled with 3 packing cases, and labelled Leamington to Winchester, via Newbury. How it got there from the middle of a train running through without a stop was a mystery even to the acute mind of Thorpe Hazell.
"Well," said the inspector, "we'd better have a look at the points. Come along."
The points are actuated by 2 levers in a ground frame.
"You only use them so occasionally that I suppose they are kept out of action?"
"Certainly," replied the inspector. "A block of wood is bolted down, fixed as a wedge. There it is, you see, quite untouched, and the levers are locked."
Suddenly Hazell's face lit up. Oil had evidently been used to loosen the nut of the bolt that fixed the wedge of wood. Then his eyes fell on the handle of one of the 2 levers, and a slight exclamation of joy escaped him. Holding his camera a few inches from the handle, he took 2 very careful photographs. The points must have been set to get the truck where it is. How it was done is the problem. But if the doer is a regular criminal, I think we might find him. The first thing Hazell did on returning to Newbury was develop his photographs. The plates were dry enough by the evening for him to print 2 on gaslight paper, and to enclose the clearest of them with a letter to a Scotland Yard official whom he knew. The following evening he received a note from the station master. "Dear Sir,
I have just received a report from Winchester that the pictures in the cases have been unpacked and examined by the committee of the loan exhibition. They have not been damaged or interfered with in any way. We're still at a loss to account for the running of the wagon on the Churn siding. I am sure you will observe confidence in this matter."
"More mysterious than ever," said Hazell to himself. The next day he called at Scotland Yard. "I've had no difficulty with your little matter, you'll be glad to hear," the official said. "We looked up our records and soon spotted your man." "Who is he?" "Edgar Jeffreys. But we know him under several aliases. He served 4 sentences for burglary and robbery." The official handed an address to Hazell. "He's living there, under the name of Allen. I'll let you know if he moves." When Hazell opened his paper the following morning, this is what he saw. "Mystery of a picture. Sir Gilbert Murrell and the Winchester Loan Exhibition. An extraordinary charge. Sir Gilbert Murrell, who lives in Leamington, owns several valuable pictures, among them The Celebrated Holy Family by Velasquez. This picture was dispatched by him from Leamington. Yesterday Sir Gilbert arrived with the committee. He declared that a copy had been substituted on account of marks of his at the back of the canvas which were quite indecipherable and which were now missing. Sir Gilbert insisted most emphatically to our correspondent that he intends holding the committee responsible for the substitution which he declares has taken place." Evidently the papers had not got hold of the mysterious incident at Churn, but Hazell saw that inquiries would be made. He hurried off to a friend of his who was a well-known art historian. "There was a famous copy," said he, "of the Velasquez, and for some years there was controversy among the respective owners as to which was genuine. However, the dispute was settled years ago, and undoubtedly Sir Gilbert Murrell held the genuine picture. What became of the copy no one knows. For 20 years all trace of it has been lost." "Where was the copy last seen?" "Oh, the old Earl of Ringmere had it, but when he knew it to be a forgery, he is said to have sold it for a mere song." "Only said to have sold it," muttered Hazell to himself as he left the house. "That's very vague. Sometimes enthusiasts lose all sense of honesty." In an hour Hazell was at the address given him at Scotland Yard. A short, wiry man with sharp eyes stood waiting, looking at him suspiciously. "Well," he snapped, "what do you want?" "I come on behalf of the Earl of Ringmere. You will know that when I mention Churn," replied Hazell, playing his trump card boldly. The man darted forward, but Hazell had a revolver pointing at him in a twinkling. "You detective!" "Now listen to me quietly, and you may come to a little reason. You changed that picture at Churn the other night. You were foolish to leave your traces on that lever, eh?" "How did I do that?" exclaimed the man, giving himself away. "You left your thumbprint on the handle, and they recognized it at Scotland Yard. Quite simple." Jeffreys swore beneath his breath. "I suppose the Earl wants to keep his name out of it. That's why you're here." "You're not quite right. I'm acting in a purely private capacity, and I fancy if I can get the original picture back to its owner, that it will be better for all parties to hush this affair up. Has the Earl got it?" "Not yet, but he knows where it is." "Now you're talking sense. Make a clean breast of it, and I'll take it down on paper. I shall hold it in case it is necessary, but if you help me to get the picture back to Sir Gilbert, I don't think it will be." Jeffreys told the following story. "The old Earl kept that forged picture for years. He let folks think he'd sold it, but all the time hoping to change it somehow for the original. Then I came along. There was 3 of us in it, for it was a ticklish business. I got hold of a key to unlock that ground frame and oiled the points so that the thing should work. One pal was with me in the siding, ready to clap on the side brake when the truck was running in. I was to work the points, and my other pal, who had the most awkward job of all, was on the goods train, under a tarpaulin. He had 2 lengths of stout rope with a hook at each end. When the train left Upton, he started his job. Goods trains travel slowly, and there was plenty of time. Counting from the back brake van, the truck we wanted to run off was number 5. First, he hooked number 4 to truck number 6. Then he uncoupled number 5 from number 4, standing on number 5 to do it. Then he paid out the slack till it was tight. Next, he hooked his second rope from number 5 to number 6, uncoupled number 5 from number 6, and paid out the slack of the second rope until it was tight. The last few trucks were being drawn by a long rope reaching from number 4 to number 6 and leaving a space in between. In the middle of this space, number 5 ran. Drawn from a short rope from number 6, my pal stood on number 6 with a sharp knife at the ready in his hand. Well, the rest was easy. I held the lever. The instant the space appeared after number 6, I pulled it over, and number 5 took the siding points while my pal cut the rope. Directly the truck had run by, I reversed the lever so the rest of the train following took the main line. There was a decline before Compton, and the last 4 trucks came running down to the main body of the train, while my pal hauled in the slack and finally coupled number 4 to number 6 when they came together. He jumped from the train as it ran very slowly into Compton, and that's how it was done. Hazell's eyes sparkled. "It's the cleverest thing I've ever heard of," he said. Well, it wanted some handling. Then I took the picture off, rolling it up first, and hid it. The old Earl insisted on this. He was going to wait for a few weeks and then get it himself. Where? You sure you're going to hush this up? You'd have been in charge long ago if I were not. Well, there's a path from Churn to East Isley, across the downs. And on the right-hand side of that path is an old sheep well. It's there. You can easily find the string if you look for it, fixed near the top. "I told you I was merely a private individual," said Hazell to Sir Gilbert Murrell. "I have acted in a purely private capacity in bringing you your picture." Sir Gilbert looked from the canvas to the calm face of Hazell.
"Who are you, sir?"
he asked.
"Where was it? Who?"
"I'm not in any way to blame myself. By chance as much as anything else, I discovered how your picture had been stolen and where it was."
"But I want to know more about it. I shall prosecute.
I think not. Do you remember where the forged picture was seen last?"
"Yes, the Earl of Ringmere had it. He sold it."
"Did he?"
"Eh?
"What if he kept it all this time?" said Hazell with a peculiar look.
"Good heavens! You don't mean that? Why, I was dining with him only a fortnight ago."
"Ah. Well, I think you are content now, Sir Gilbert."
"It's terrible, terrible! I have the picture back, but I wouldn't have the scandal known for worlds, even if I have to admit I was mistaken and let the forgery stay through the exhibition."
"I think that would be the best way," replied Hazell, who never regretted his action. "Of course, Jeffreys ought to have been punished," he said to himself. "But it was a clever idea, a clever idea."
"May I offer you some lunch?"
asked Sir Gilbert. "Thank you, but I'm a vegetarian, and
I think my cook could arrange something. Let me ring."
It's very good of you, but I have already ordered a dish of lentils and salad at the station restaurant. But if you will allow me just to go through my physical training anti-luncheon exercises here to save me a public display at the station—"
"Certainly,"
replied the rather bewildered baronet, whereupon Hazell threw off his coat and commenced whirling his arms like a windmill.
"Digestion should be considered before a meal," he explained.
Thrilling Stories of the Railway by V.L. Whitechurch was read by Benedict Cumberbatch. It was abridged and directed by Fiona Kelcher.